Wow, we've gone 40 minutes almost if I wait 30 seconds without really mentioning Manchester United. So let's do it now. Sounds like that Manchester United are on the brink or on the midst of signing Mason Mount. Great talent, we all know Mason Mount. And I'm not here to bring up Mason Mount to pump Manchester United's tires. What I'm actually going to do here is, how do we feel about Mason Mount? I sit here and watch Mason Mount week in and week out. Great talent, great footballer. But what does he do? I'm not sold on Mason Mount and him being this massive signing for Manchester United. But how am I just being a classic United fan going, oh, who's the
It's tough to say for me. Like I haven't watched a lot of Mason Mount. I mean, he's just your typical attacking midfielder, I guess. Just in my opinion, he doesn't really excite me. Like he's just that player you can slide in your midfield and he'll do the job, he'll do the business. But he's not like a Bruno. He's not like a game changer. He'll get you a goal here and there. I mean, for Chelsea, I mean Chelsea had a poor year, and obviously, but he had 3 goals, 2 assists, 4 assists in the Champions League, right? Like I don't think I think the past season was probably one of his worst ones, and it's interesting to see like how United are desperate to bring him in, right? Like it's
yeah,
very weird.
that's the thing.
He's the last midfielder I would expect him to even go after.
Well,
Um,
That's my question for you, United fans. Is this a player you need? Is this
I've
a
heard United fans they've wanted another midfielder, but like I mean they already have Casemiro, McTominay, Fred, Christian Eriksen. Probably one of them has to leave. Like it's a very
probably
competitive
two.
midfielder.
I'll bet you Fred. I bet Fred is already signing for Fulham. I bet Fred's going to Fulham, and I'll bet you that McTominay's gone to Newcastle. So, United will bring in Sabitzer. And the thing is realistically, it's never bad to have depth. It's not bad to have
yeah?
players who can come in and have an influence and not be a 19-year-old named Garnacho. Like it would be
Yeah.
nice to have somebody like that, right? So you can look at the bench that Manchester City has or Liverpool has. Those are two clubs who have won the Premier League in the last 6 years for a reason, because they have good talent on the pitch in the starting 11 all the time and on the bench. Not always on the pitch all the time, but still being supplemental. So I understand that, but I just feel like, and you kind of said it, Wazzy, is just the, is he that important of a signing where we're going, oh, Mason Mount, look at this? I just feel like he's, I hate to use the term here, but mid. You know what I mean? It's just very mid.
He did score 11 goals and 10 assists the year prior in the Premier League, so he does have a little bit of output in him. So I think he's a player who's won a trophy. You know, he's won a Champions League, so it's not a bad. I mean, you know, adding that depth to your midfield might be actually good. You look at a team like Manchester City, right? Like how many players do they have in their bench are quality that they can rely on, and maybe that's
True.
right. It's never been a problem with Manchester City when it comes to bringing in good, talented midfielders.
I agree. The depth is super important, and Man City's bench is
Yeah,
competitive,
yeah.
right? Like their
So
bench, like Julian Alvarez comes on and scores a goal. You know what I mean? Like that's wild. So that's a great point. But Brett, I totally know what you mean when you say my player that when you describe as, very talented, very good, you want to see him succeed, but it's just a little underwhelming for me is João Felix,
Yeah.
however you pronounce his last name. That's how I feel about him. You want to see João Felix do well. You want to see him kind of become a little bit more polished, but it's just when I watch him, I'm like, oh, I always want more from him. And it becomes to the point where I don't think he's as of an exciting player as everyone makes him out to be. So I totally understand that sentiment. And what I will say is I was more excited about hearing the potential of McAllister going to Liverpool. That's a midfielder who I'd get pumped
mhm.
about. I think he's an incredible player. When I watched him in the World Cup, I'm like, this guy works so hard. He's so good. He didn't get enough praise, in Qatar for his performances. And if Liverpool signs a midfielder like that, I know he's, everyone wants Jude Bellingham, but I think McAllister will do a lot of good things for a club. I didn't have that same feeling about the Mason Mount rumors. So I understand the depth conversation, but Brett, I also understand what it's like to kind of see this player who's very talented, you know, who's had success, but you're left wanting more from them.
Yeah.
So I hope João Felix finds success. You know, I don't know if it's going to be at Atletico. You know, I don't know what the situation is with Diego Simeone. I know that I think the two of them have beef. Maybe Mason Mount finds success at United, right?
And
like maybe that's a team under a manager with players. Like, I find it hard to believe that with Casemiro and Bruno, like, everyone should be succeeding, right? So maybe Mason Mount's this, like, it's going to be like this perfect storm for United almost.
Mason Mount's also only 24. Maybe, you know, he's had so many different managers. Maybe under someone like Ten Hag, who's done well with younger players, who's done well with midfielders, get the most out of him. You know, maybe if he doesn't have any injuries. I don't know if he's really been injury prone either. So,
and he's very flexible. Sorry, Wash.
Yeah.
He's very flexible in the positions he can play. He can play all over the pitch, which is a very nice thing to have. So, I mean, that will also go into the fact that sometimes, I mean, you're always going to have Bruno and Casemiro in that midfield. It's just a matter of building around that.
Yeah, you know, Ten Hag and his staff, I mean, they clearly have the typical player they want. I guess they took their time and identified Mason Mount. And it's not like, yeah, let's just get Mason Mount. They definitely took the time to go, hey, we actually want to pursue this player.
Ten Hag knows what he's doing. So I don't question. This guy is very smart. I made a video, I think, about United obviously being in Champions League football next season. And so many, and what Ten Hag has done is really incredible in a short period of time. And so many people were like, well, for the amount of money that they spend and for the team that he has, like, it should be. And I'm like, do people forget that you guys were at the bottom of the Prem at some point for the first time in 30 years? Not to mention the toxicity of everything. Every single day I looked on social media and it was like hashtag Glazers out. Ten Hag literally came into a toxic situation where he was met with so much adversity, you know, bottom of the Prem. There was also the Ronaldo drama, which, you guys know me, I'm on Ronaldo's side, but it was still affecting Ten Hag. Turned it around, brought in players that obviously helped turn it around. Casemiro is your guys' freaking soldier, like, foundation of that team. And look what he's done.
Yeah.
He's flipped it around. And I don't know why people can't give United credit. I don't know. I think that there's a lot of haters, but I think you guys deserve full credit for what you did this season.
100%. And one more United thing here, and we'll move on, I promise. But it's a big name in football, and adding to this side would be very interesting. And it's Neymar, a name that I was not at all expecting going into this summer for Manchester United. And it sounds like there's, like, Sky is reporting that there's no other club he's going to sign for but Manchester United. And you sit there, and again, it's almost like the Mason Mount talk, and you go, is this a player that United needs? But you go, well, sometimes you're lining up with Garnacho on one side and Antony on the other. Well, if somebody gets hurt, then what? Are you going to play Elanga? Or are you going to play this or that? Like, you're going to be putting in a world-class winger, and yes, he's injury prone, so there is that as well, but you can't replace class, and he is class at his position. I think he would be an unbelievable addition to United.
I would love to see. I've been saying this for so long. I'd love to see Neymar in the Premier League. I would love to see how he does. I'd love to see him at United. He's an iconic, legendary footballer. Give him an iconic, legendary club with a really good manager. You know, he can play with Casemiro. You know, I'm sure him and Bruno know each other very well. So give him that opportunity. I also, I do agree with you. He's very injury prone, and I know that he's, you know, suffering that ankle injury now. But I wonder, you know, what his spirits are like, and, you know, what he's like outside of PSG, which is where he's been for a long time now. And, you know, PSG fans aren't the nicest to him. And even, you know, the media over there is very hard on him. Like, one article came out saying he's the biggest flop in football history. I'm like, people forget he's a generational talent. You know, I feel like sometimes he's very highly disrespected, where I wonder if you kind of took him out of that environment now and put him into a team where, you know, he's teammates with Casemiro in international football. You know, he knows a lot of these guys. See how he does. I would love to see him flourish. I think that he deserves that opportunity, and I think the Premier League could use a little bit of Neymar swag.
Oh.
I think it'd be so cool.
Wazzy, do you think you'd fit at United?
Oh, probably, especially with Casemiro, Anthony, a few of the Brazilians there.
Anthony,
so
another one. Yeah.
I think the culture would suit him a bit, and I'd like to see. I would just like to see him in the Premier League, and I think Man United would be the perfect fit. Honestly, I think you'd have a lot of fun.
Oh, I'm getting so many United jerseys next year. They're so pretty. We got so many fun players. Okay, I'm getting giddy.